Look, it's Glinda!
It's good to see me, isn't it? What is up, chicken butts? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is decades in the making because ever since I was a child, way too young to be reading the novel by Gregory Maguire, as well as a middle schooler who got the Wicked original Broadway soundtrack for Christmas, Elphaba has had me in a chokehold. I guess I could really say it's more of a century in the making because it's Wicked the movie is based on the Broadway musical, based on the novel, based on the movie, based on the novel. God! Of course, many other people over that time have thrown their witch hats into the ring. You know, their witch hats.
It's the live event of the season.
Are you sure you didn't come back for these?
My ruby slipper!
No!
down the road.
A Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Take me to meet your wizard.
Join Ashanti, Queen Latifah, David Allen Greer, and Quentin Tarantino.
Can I see your feet?
Are you serious?
You'll have to comment down below if you want a deep dive into the universe of Oz. Do it. But whether you fell in love with the novel or the stage show or the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem, let's get into it. Wicked, the musical, starts with its own take on Ding Dong the Witch is Dead from The Wizard of Oz before hopping back in time to tell the whole story, which wasn't that kind of funny when it's literally Wicked Part 1 and she says, let me tell you the whole story. While the novel does not have the same framing device, it does start in the future or the present. Well, she has Dorothy and co. in captivity, and just before that little bitch slops water all over her, we hop back to the past. So very similar overall in terms of the launches. Except Elpha Baby in the book is born with these terrifying fangs and literally bites off one of the midwife's fingers, so they fit her with a muzzle. In the book, their dad is this religious missionary guy who goes door to door like a Mormon boy to tell everybody that magic is evil, and so don't practice magic, join his religion, and instead of being the mayor of Munchkinland. Their mom is at home, and she's basically just like a big slut, Gregory Maguire's word choice, not mine. So she just welcomes dudes through the alleyway door all the time, which... girl, do your thing. At some point, mom fucks the stranger with the green juice. And then a while later, she fucks another dude, this quadling dude who's red, named Turtle Heart. And then Elphaba's dad comes home from one of his missionary trips, and he catches them in the act, and he's like, no, that looks good to me, actually. And he starts fucking Turtle Heart as well, and then everybody's just fucking for a while, and eventually Nessa Rose is born, and it's like, who's the daddy? Who is the daddy? Oh, and side note, we learn, because literally Turtle Heart just shows up, and he's like, let me blow some glass for you, and they're like, yeah, nice. And his home was flattened. His home is no more, because the wizard's army cleared the fucking way because they're putting in the yellow brick road. Not very nice. There's also the Clock of the Time Dragon, which is part of the Broadway set and gets a mention in the musical version. And it is kind of like a traveling cult circus type thing where they essentially put on these really graphic sexual shows. Literally the first one that essentially opens the book is this dude has two he has two appendages, one on each side, and he has a three-way with a mom and her daughter.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Just what L. Frank Baum would have wanted. So anyway, this thing is like traveling around, and so of course Elphaba's dad is like, don't listen to the clock. The clock is bad. And so as Nessa gets older, she basically starts drinking daddy's Kool-Aid, and so that's why she is the obvious favorite. And also, I would say in the book, she is born without arms. Also, in the book, they have a little brother named Shell, and it's while she's giving birth to Shell that their mother actually passes away. But I guess nobody gives a shit about Shell. One thing I do think is interesting across all of the versions is who is attending or who is enrolled to attend Shiz University, because it's different in actually every version. In the book, Elphaba is enrolled alone at first, and then Nessa and Nanny follow a year later, which makes a lot more sense instead of this just everybody of all ages goes to school and takes the same classes at once, and we just don't talk about it. Then the musical also has them both going to school at once, but they're both enrolled. And then in the movie musical, it was actually quite a well-received change where only Nessa is enrolled and Elphaba's just showing up to help get her there and pass her off. But then her little display of magic gets her a special invite to stay from Madame Morabou.
Madame Morabou.
Dr. Dillamond hits the stage a bit sooner in the book than he does in the musical. He actually shows up on the train on the way to Shiz, which is where Elphaba meets Glinda as well. Glinda. Their conversation leads to her becoming his teacher assistant once they're at school. On stage, it's kind of left ambiguous, like, what happens to Dr. Dillamond? No, but in the book, he's murdered. They kill him. It's not ambiguous. They kill him. So Homeboy is murdered, and that's one of the main driving forces of the Elphaba Rebellion. Elphaba Rebellion. Also in the book, Bach is just some dude. Like, he's just a goon. He shows up, he has a crush on Glinda, and he, like, leaves. That's his whole purpose. I think he is one of the Munchkins in the beginning, picking on Elphaba, but they do become friends later. And yeah, he does not become the Tin Man. He doesn't do shiz after they leave school. Right? And speaking of gay Linda, we were speaking of gay Linda. When we meet her in the book, there is no doubt about it. She's a fucking narcissist. She is this spoiled young lady, and she is happy to use anyone and anything around her for her personal gain. And, you know, in the musical, there's a little bit of that. They tease with that, but she's mostly, Elle Woods with a wand. A lot of the changes work really well for the musical, but so much gets left out of the conversation by making those changes. Like her changing her name to Glinda. In the book, it's very obviously a manipulative move for social gain. But in the movie, in the musical, it's just like, haha, she's so silly.
I will henceforth be known no longer as Glinda.
It doesn't really mean anything, but she means well. And it's not that way in the book. She's really just kind of a piece of shiz.
Oh my god! I thought this was a classy party.
But her relationship with Elphaba is pretty similar across iterations, including tricking her into wearing the hideous hat, which ends up being what really causes them to connect in the first place. In the book, though, she has a chaperone, Amma Clutch, and Amma was supposed to be with them on the train on the way to Shiz, but she stepped on a rusty nail. Poor lady. And so she had to go get that treated. And because of that is why actually in the book, Glinda and Elfie have to room together, because they're the only two that don't have a chaperone. But yes, that's how they become roommates.
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Clutch is one of the only people who does not seem to be bothered at all by Elphaba's skin color. So, of course, that means that Gregory Maguire just treats her terribly. At one point, Glinda makes a remark to Morable that Clutch is losing her mind and acting very delusional. And Morble essentially casts a spell on her so that she starts talking to inanimate objects until she's just completely lost her mind and literally dies from it. But Glinda is able to use magic in her final moments to make her lucid again and get some information out of her. And that is how we learn that Morble was behind Dr. Dillamond's death, because Clutch had witnessed Dillamond get. On Paige, Morrible is the headmistress of one of the Shiz dorms. She's basically in that role to spy on the young people of Oz, as well as recruit some of these young women to come and work for the wizard. Gross. She openly detests the animals and is actually in the book, she is the source of the phrase, animals should be seen and not heard. And in the musical, it's just never revealed who put that on Dillerman's board. So I really like to imagine that Morrible was just being like this messy witch and snuck in there right before class and is like, But like I said, Amma Clutch died from losing her mind. And so at Clutch's funeral, Morrible tells Glinda, Nessa, and Elphaba that they should be these ambassadors of peace for the wizard. Sounds sus as fuck. But they are also called adepts, I'm not sure, of Quadling Country, Munchkinland, and Gillikin. And it would grant them political dominion over these lands, but really it would just be a way of extending the wizard's eyes and power. So Elphaba sees right through this and she's like, this is some Elphaba bullshit. But Glinda's like, I'm interested. And so those two try to talk about it and like convince each other one way or the other, but Morrible has placed a hex on them, so they can't talk about it. They cannot communicate about her proposition. This is the final straw. Elphaba says, I'm going to the Emerald City and I'm confronting the wizard about this shiz. Mind you, they are not invited to the wizard. They have not received a little musical flying invite to the Emerald City, which that's another thing with this movie. It is now canon that Glinda the Good Witch says, I cannot, when she sees this little flying trinket. Just such a modern bit of vernacular that is now part of Oz.
Oh, stop. I just cannot.
But so that is the final straw that gets Elphaba to say, I'm going to the Emerald City to see the wizard. They don't have an invitation. They get on the train, and it's a long journey. And they've gotten very, very close. They fuck. Elphaba may be allergic to water, but she certainly gets wet.
You need to leave.
But they get to the city and they meet the wizard, and he's just like a full-blown dick. He's a dictator who openly calls for the oppression and eradication of animals from Oz and has no problem lying to and manipulating his followers. So of course, with these two little witches showing up, he dismisses their concerns and sends them away. And they are like going back to Shiz, and Elphaba's like, hell no, I will not go back to that bitch Morrible. Like, that lady, she sucks, and I am not doing that. That is actually dialogue lifted exactly from the book. So that is kind of similar to in Defying Gravity when they are forced to split, essentially, before this time jump, where instead of how dramatic it was made for the musical and very much turned into like this finale moment, they just have a really tearful goodbye. They make out a little bit, and then Glinda goes on her gay-ass little way home. So at this point in the book, there is a 5-year time jump. The musical doesn't tell us how much time passes, so I guess it's up to you. You choose your own adventure. But Elphaba is a city girl now, and this results in her, she's like hanging out at an Emerald City Starbucks, right? And she sees Fiyero, who is now a prince, and he has 3 kids, and he's there for like a prince politics meeting. And he's like, girl, oh my God, remember me? Because he was at Shiz, but they were not romantically involved. Also, there was no love triangle. Like, he did not have a thing with Glinda at all. So they were like classmates who barely knew each other and then now see each other 5+ years later. And he's like, girl, remember me? I'm a prince. And she's like, I think you're thinking of someone else. He's like, bitch, you're green. She tries to give him like the cold shoulder. And, he does the natural thing by stalking her and following her home. At which point she finally gives in and they just start fucking. Yeah, fuck those kids. Fuck that wife, man. The green bitch is back. Fiyero is like, also, did you know, Elphaba, that your friend and sister Glinda and Nessa have both picked up sorcery? They'd be doing magic now. So picture a montage of time passing and Elphaba and Fiyero just fucking all the time. He does not care at all about his family back home. And finally, Elphaba gets her chance to murder Madame Morrible for good. So she heads out to do that. And Fiyero is like, I'm going to follow her, obviously. And she's not actually able to do it. A group of kids gets in the way of Morrible right at the last second. And Elphaba's like, darn it, next time. Fiyero goes back to her place and he makes it there before her and is greeted by the Gale Force, which is the Wizards' secret police team, probably the same people who burned down Turtle Heart's area, Quadling Country, in the beginning. They're ransacking the place looking for Elphaba and they murder him. They beat him to death. So Elphaba is so devastated learning that her love Fiyero has been killed that she falls into a coma for a full year, during which time she gives birth to a boy named Lear. Presumably Elphaba, made that baby with Fiyero, but when she wakes up, she's mute for 5 years. When she finally starts talking, she's like, that is not my kid. Like, mm-mm. So after those 5 years, she decides to go to Fiero's castle. She tracks it down and goes and tries to befriend his wife and kids. And his wife is like, I don't want to talk about him and all of that. Like, Elphaba, questionable choices. And they're like, who is this boy? And Lear's like, that's my mom. And she's like, I don't know this little fuck. And she's like, he just follows me, I guess. But it is at Fiero's castle, Kiamo Ko, in the west. So by the way, Morrible's proposition that those 3 witches all take over a land of Oz has now come to be, which is probably because she cast a spell on them. In Fiero's castle, snooping Elphaba finds the grimoire and starts studying its contents. And she's the first person to be able to read it in who knows how long. Her son Lear starts playing with one of Fiero's kids, hide and seek, and it results in this accident where Lear is almost killed. And Elphaba is so fucking pissed about this that she causes a giant icicle to fall and impale Fiero's other son and kill him. And this is what finally makes her go oh my gosh, I have a motherly bond with this child. This must be my son. But meanwhile, Lear, when he has his near-death experience, has a voice tell him, you are Fiero's spawn, but Elphaba cannot be your mother. So when she's finally like, baby, come here, he's like, no, who? Mm-mm. Just terrible timing. Gregory Maguire was just horribly, horribly mean to most of these characters just all the time. But at this point, we take another time jump. We hop forward 7 years. And this is the point when Morrible has a storm come to Munchkinland, which results in Dorothy Gale's house squishing Nessa Rose. Glinda just happened to be nearby when this happens, and so she's trying to prevent a civil war from breaking out in Oz, as well as protect Dorothy Gale, so she sends her off with the ruby slippers. Elphaba shows up at the funeral for Nessa, and this is when Elphaba and Glinda see each other for the first time in decades, and at first it's loving, and they missed each other, and they're crying, and they start catching up, and then Glinda's like, oh, those shoes, I gave them to that girl. And Elphaba's fucking pissed. So Elphaba heads west to Kiamo Ko, and she's like, I'm gonna swing by Shiz University, and I'm gonna kill the shiz out of Madame Morrible. But when she gets there, Madame Morrible has just died, she's still warm, and Elphaba was planning on bashing her skull in with a trophy, so she's like, I'm just gonna do it anyway, and then I'm gonna tell people I killed Horrible Morrible. So she kills that old bitch, and she's heading out when she sees the clock of the time dragon, and it stops and puts on a special show for Elphaba, revealing that her father is not her father, the wizard is her father. What? So she gets back to her castle in the west, which is now completely empty. Everybody's either been dead or kidnapped by the wizard's evil police. She learns that Dorothy and her friends are tra-la-la, hop, skipping, jumping down the road, coming up on her castle. They're going to be there soon. She's losing it now. She's like Amma Clutch, earlier, and she's very delusional, losing touch with reality. She has nobody to talk to. And so when she sees these people, she thinks the Scarecrow walking with Dorothy, Lion, and Tin Man is Fiyero coming back to her. So Elphaba sends her pet dog to like say like, woof, woof, follow me. But when they see this dog howling at them, they actually think it's like attacking them. So the Tin Man kills the dog. So then Elphaba sends like a murder of crows. That's what they're called, right? Once again, they see them as a threat and they kill the birds. So then Elphaba sends her bees, and the bees are able to remove the Scarecrow's mask and reveal it is just fucking Flower in there. Flower. It is just... He's nothing but a straw man. And this devastates Elphaba. Not to mention they killed all of her pets. Dorothy shows up and she's like, hello, the wizard definitely sent me to kill you. I don't really want to. I'd actually like to apologize for accidentally flattening your little sister. Will you please forgive me? And Elphaba is like, bitch, like... The nerve. Like, nobody has ever forgiven me. Why the fuck should I forgive you? And Elphaba is like so mad that she's holding her broom when the bottom catches on fire, and then she's swinging it around. You hillbilly bitch, get the fuck out of my castle, you know, shit like that. And Elphaba, lights her dress and cape on fire. So Dorothy, innocently trying to help, throws a bucket of water onto the witch, and this causes Elphaba to melt, leaving nothing but her iconic witch hat there in the puddle in a castle. Dorothy takes the little green potion bottle back to the wizard that was used when he subdued her mom into non-consensual conception. And this is how he learns, like, oh, shiz, that's my baby girl. That's my daughter. So the wizard announces he's leaving Oz, and it's alluded that he's going to take his own life when he gets back home. And Dorothy, meanwhile, is rumored to have secretly stayed behind in Oz, that she never left. And to be clear, in the novel, Elphaba dies. It is tragic, it is horrible and sad, and it makes her into this martyr, like this godlike being around Oz. There's no trapdoor, there is no sexy scarecrow to come let her out and walk into the sunset with her.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God! What is that?
Dorothy actually killed that bitch. Okay, so just to recap. Elphaba, dead. Fiyero, dead. His kid, dead. The wizard, dead. Morrible, dead. Dillamond, dead. Emma Clutch, dead. Nessa Rose, dead. Mom and Dad, dead and dead. Bach, nobody cares. So what did we really ultimately learn? That Gregory Maguire needs therapy. But let's be real. There really would probably be no Wicked, the new musical Broadway show based on the Witches of Oz, if they didn't cut a lot of that weird shiz out. And they did something that was actually quite magical by creating two very, very different pieces that share some weird DNA between the two of them. So whether you love the book or the musical, or neither or both, let me know your favorite differences in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Yeah, that was it. Did I do it?
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other by the time I finish this song?
It's the one with tiger sex.